We have three stories today, three parables that Jesus told. All three stories, as Tina alluded to, is about lost and found. Who did Jesus tell these stories to? Well, he told them to the Pharisees and the scribes. How many people here read the Bible? I mean, maybe not all the time, because we are Lutheran, not Baptist. Baptists do a really good job of reading the Bible all the time. Maybe you don't read it all the time, but how many of you have read parts of the Bible, or maybe all of the Bible? Read. All right. Good. That's what the scribes do. The scribes read the Bible, they study the Bible. How many people here try to do the right thing in the eyes of God? I mean, we mess up sometimes, but how many people try to do the right thing? I know there's a lot of pressure right now to raise your hand because you don't want to be seen as somebody that doesn't read the Bible or doesn't try to do the right thing. Out of curiosity, how many people are firstborn? You see, we firstborn, we try to do the right thing to please our parents. I don't know why the rest of you try to do the right thing. Doing the right thing, that's what the Pharisees try to do. This is what Jesus tries to do. So, Jesus studies the scripture and does the right thing. Now, we might not all agree what the right thing is, but we have very similar goals. When we read the Bible, we try to do the right thing. Now, if you're not reading the Bible, and if you're not trying to do the right thing, and you raised your hand and lied about it, don't worry, you're covered in the rest of these stories. Why did Jesus tell these three stories to the Pharisees and the scribes? Well, Luke tells us why. Now, all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling, saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told these three stories, three parables. We have a lost sheep, we have a lost coin, and we have a lost son. The first two stories have two main characters, right? First, we have the shepherd, the one who lost his sheep, and we have the lost sheep. The second one, we have that woman who lost her coin, and we have the lost coin. But the third story has three main characters: the lost son, the father that lost the lost son, and the elder son. These stories all have something to do with lost and found. All three have a celebration when the lost is found. The difference is, in the third story, not everyone is celebrating. The older son is not celebrating. The coin gets lost, no fault of its own. I mean, most coins can't get up and roll away on their own. The lamb gets lost because it's a foolish animal and doesn't know any better. There's no conflict when the coin is found. There's no problem with the celebration. There's no problem or conflict when the sheep is found or the celebration. But when the lost son is found, he's lost by his own fault. Or, as remember that one confession we say, by his own most grievous fault. There's a conflict in the celebration of finding the lost son. The lost son really screwed up. I mean, first he asks for his inheritance before his father dies. So basically he's saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead." Then he takes his inheritance and wastes it in desolate living. And I looked up desolate means wasteful. His brother suggests more specific things that he was doing, but we don't really know for sure. But we do know he is in a mess of his own making. So when the father welcomes him back and throws a party, the older son not only doesn't think he deserves it, but he feels abused and neglected by his father. The Pharisees and the scribes can certainly relate to the older brother. Those tax collectors and sinners certainly do not deserve to be treated like those of us who are trying to do the right thing. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. Is that how God works? The people who try to do the right thing are treated the same as those who not only don't try to do the right thing, they intentionally do the wrong thing. Who do you think is the key character in these stories? Each story could stand on its own, but I think Jesus purposely put these three stories together as one big parable. It's just like a good joke, right? If I say, the rabbi, the priest, and the Lutheran pastor, you know the Lutheran pastor is the punchline, right? This third story is the punchline. The third story is key. But who's the key person in that story? The younger son certainly benefits. I mean, it is very comforting for those of us who screw up, right, to know that there is forgiveness. The younger son messes up bad. He does come to his senses. As Luke says, he comes to himself. He hits bottom, he sees the error of his ways, we hope. At least he put together this speech, right, for forgiveness. He says, Father, I have sinned before heaven, before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. It's a great speech. Only I don't think the father ever heard it. The father sees him at a distance. He runs and hugs him and kisses him. And what I'm wondering is, did they have masks on? That's it. The father welcomes him and throws a party. The older son, through the eyes of the older son, as we said, this is not a happy story. Or is it? It could be if the older son listens to the father. The father reminds the son that not only do we need to celebrate because this brother of yours was dead and now is alive. Not only that, but the father reminds the older son, look, I'm always with you. All I have is yours. Just because there's love for the lost ones doesn't mean there isn't love for the ones who are trying to do the right thing. But the key character has to be the father, right? It's the shepherd, the woman, the father. It has to be God. We see it here through the eyes of God that no one is a throwaway person. I mean, sometimes we're tempted when we don't see somebody for a while, good riddance. God doesn't seem to say that. Everyone matters. It doesn't matter if you are lost to no fault of your own. It doesn't matter if you're lost because you didn't know any better. And it doesn't matter if it's by your own fault, your most grievous fault. I mean, it matters. I mean, the Pharisees and the scribes aren't the only ones who care about people doing the right thing. God cares about that too. But however we get lost, when we are lost, God is grieved. I love the visual Jesus gives in these three stories. If we roll away and get lost, God turns on the lights, sweeps the house until he finds us. If we get lost because we did something foolish, God holds us down until he finds us. And if we willfully do the wrong thing and end up lost, our grieving God will look for us. And if he sees us at a distance, will run and hug and kiss us. And I don't think God needs to wear a mask. Do you? Maybe while he's hugging and kissing us, maybe that's the one time he doesn't even listen to our prayers or our excuses, because he's making plans for the celebration. As good Pharisees and scribes that we are, we know it's not best to get lost. After all, we are trying to do the right thing. The right thing, as God shows us, is to have grace and mercy for those who are lost, for those who are in need. But if we do get lost, we can trust Jesus. And all God's people said,